Hello and welcome back, and today we are looking at once again the QMiroPlus mesh router and NAS combined system. We have got this system set up, we've already done the hardware review, and today is the turn of the software review. We will have another video coming soon, by the way, where we're going to be doing some bandwidth testing of this mesh router system, but today we are going to split this review into two parts. We have the Q router software here being accessed via the desktop, and the version with firmware we are utilizing is version 1.2.6. That is the latest version at the time of recording. And the second half of the video, we are going to be accessing the NAS side of this very same device. That's right, we are utilizing the QMiroPlus, which is both a mesh router system and a NAS. Not a bad little NAS at that, being a quad-core Intel 4125 processor with 4 GB of DDR4 memory. This system can pretty much do anything that the modern generation of QNAP NASes can do for home, prosumer and SMB users. And although you've seen me talk about QTS a number of times in the past, I am going to talk about it once again in a slightly more skimmed fashion in the latter half of this video. But for now, let's talk about the router side of things. We're going to go through the options on offer. We're going to talk about the things we like and the things we don't. So here we go. This is the general dashboard. Let's zoom in a little bit there, but get a little bit closer. Now, this portal is accessed here on the local IP, but you can access it via the internet if you choose. Just set it and get it connected to your QNAP Cloud account. And indeed, if you do search for the device on your local area network using QFinder Pro, not only will you find the NAS and the router, but if you are using any other mesh router nodes, as you can see here, they will appear as well, and you can perform maintenance on those. But generally, it's advised if you're going to tap into them that you do it via the main network. So as we see here, we can go into it a little bit. We've got the overview there, we've got devices, we can find out a little bit of information about the devices that are connected, we can find out a bit more about the connected devices, we can bar them if we choose and make sure that they can't access the network long term. And again, they'll get added to that block list quite easily. One of the things I have not set up on this device, I will say, is QU-WAN. It's the QNAP SD-WAN feature. I'm still planning on doing a full overview of this, but it does take a long time to set this up. And although we were going to do it during the QHORA 301 system a little while before, unfortunately lots of other stuff got in the way and that got delayed. So we will get on this soon. But needless to say, this system does support SD-WAN and that kind of site-to-site intelligent bandwidth and package management system for like VoIP and back-end quality of service and that sort of thing. We will talk about that one day, but that is included in this system. Now, first thing, we're using the standard network there. We're connected to this device via LAN, I should say. We're directly connected to the device via an Ethernet cable, but if we wanted to, we could connect via Wi-Fi. The reason I've chosen not to is just because in the latter half of the video, we will be looking at some of these apps, and I think the transmission of data and the bandwidth, it will just make things a lot easier to show you. And also, we are recording with OBS, so there might be the odd screen jump there along the way. We can create a guest network if we want. You can rename the guest network nice and quickly, and that will populate one of the frequencies, so you can use one of the 5 GHz frequencies, or in my case I am using using one of the nodes to create a back node link to the original between the original hub and one of the satellites. So I've got one of those set up on the other side of the room. If you look at the QMiro devices here, you can see that we've got that primary there in my office, and the corridor, I've got an additional node. I'm just setting this up in the near future for content coming up quite soon where we're going to bench test this, and we can add a node pretty easily. I've got one more node to set up on this, but I'm going to wait until I've got the whole system set up before I do that. But adding a node genuinely took less than about a minute and a half. It was pretty straightforward, and you can conduct maintenance on these if you choose, remove them, kind of disable them. And remember, these have got their own LED lights and their own USB ports as well. Connected devices we've already looked at there. Local area network there, we can go ahead with the WAN and see if we want to use it as a static, if this is going to be behind a modem or behind another router. And of course we can play with the MTU. It's worth highlighting this system also features 2.5 GBE, but we are connected via 1 gigabit Ethernet. LAN connectivity, this system, the hub at least, has 4 LAN ports there, so we can sort of flick between those a little bit, change the IP, muck around with some of the settings if we choose. And of course routing, we can decide what devices are doing what And although it lacks the topographical overview of the NAS side of things, that has that really nice network side. If we bring up the network virtual switch here, we'll have to skip that because we've not skipped that yet. You're able to get that really nice top-down view there of all the devices and how they're connected. And it's kind of a shame that that's not readily available in QMiro. You can access, by the way, QMiro's utter user interface here, the complete thing from within inside the NAS side of things. It does have its own dedicated app. If we go there, we can see QU router there. You can access it via the NAS or independently on its own portal there. You can play around with the Wi-Fi settings. As mentioned, you can use one of the multiple bands on this. It's AC 2200, so there's a 2.4 gigahertz band and two 5 gigahertz bands, and you can kind of enable a lot of the scheduling here on the Wi-Fi if you choose for business reasons, and then you can dedicate all of the available frequencies or only one or some if you choose, to make sure that some devices that are bandwidth restrictive, either intentionally or by their system architecture, can all be set out there. The guest network can have a little bit more configuration there. You can even change what some of the devices it can see. You can even make sure that anyone connected to the guest network cannot access the NAS, and even restrict users who are connected to the main hub station from accessing the NAS, but I'll go through that a little bit later. WPS buttons, if you're not aware, are when you want to connect to devices that don't have any kind of KVM or kind of input interface, and both the satellites and the main hub, so the plus and the non-plus 201W, have all got the WBS, which is always quite nice. NAT settings, of course, for security there, and of course, for those that are being a little brave, you can muck around with port forwarding, and again, you can rely on QNAP's own MyCloud settings, but I know a number of you in recent weeks are a little bit wobbly about that. I know things have stabilized, let's put it like that, but I think a number of you are quite worried to take advantage of port forwarding rules right now, and you shouldn't really play with these unless you know specifically what you're doing, but it's good to know you can configure them. QNAP's own QVPN service, where you can adapt a VPN into the NAS, and in this case, being able to apply the VPN into the router and therefore affecting connected devices down the line is always going to be useful within this system. And just bear in mind that QVPN and a lot of the security settings on these devices, even though this is a combined NAS and router system, these can be handled independently. So if you are going to utilize the NAS side of this, you can route that through another switch if you choose. Parental controls on this are a little lean. I'm not going to say they're super aggressive where you can automatically use some high-end management. And I think the Q router system, for those that saw my video last year where I compared Q router versus Synology's router manager, parental controls, client controls and stuff like that was still better on the Synology. And now 6 months down the line, they've still not evolved this feature as much as Synology have on their router system, although arguably Synology's router is now, it's been quite a while since their last release, and I think a lot of people are looking to upscale their hardware a bit, but nevertheless, there's still a lot of options here, and I like the safe search implementation, where you can make sure that any device connecting to this Wi-Fi, or even the LAN points, can be restricted in the kind of sources they use. So it doesn't matter whether they have a Google account, it doesn't matter if they have a YouTube signed in account, you can make sure that you can restrict what they are seeing quite easily. And again, you can enable some of those filters or just specifically target given domains directly. Again, the system settings there, sorry, just misclicked there, let that finish. That's if you want to, QTS system control is if you want to reboot the NAS side from within the switch without powering down the switch. As mentioned, these two systems run parallel to one another, so you can power down, install updates, whatever, to the router and to the switch independently. And remember, the NAS runs on its own Intel-based CPU, with the router utilizing a Qualcomm 4019 quad-core network-grade processor. Again, firmware updates can be automatic, can be scheduled, can be manual. And then finally, onto the system settings, you can change some of those operation modes, as mentioned earlier on, whether the router lives behind another network system or a modem. Is it going to just be standalone AP? Lots of information there on the logs. You can see as I've moved the device around and rebooted, you can see some of the devices that I've reconnected and connected have jumped around there on the network. There's some basic configuration settings there about restoration and restart and stuff like that, but it's all fair and well. And the access control privileges or wiring this into third-party management is possible here with the remote management as well, being accessed remotely. But again, I would be slightly hesitant to do so, particularly if you are going to utilize a system that is a combined NAS, because the NAS can still be your portal point to the router. So overall, the software has developed a little bit since we last saw it, I believe last November. Maybe October, but still nonetheless, I still think there's more places they can go with QRouter, and they haven't evolved it quite as much as they've evolved their Switch series of devices, the QSW series. But this takes us neatly away from router management and device management and the mesh through to the NAS side, and this is where I'm very pleased to say this device really does do the business. I really like this side of things. So if we have a look here, we'll come out of the network switch settings. As you can see, this is a full version of QTS. The hardware inside this device, that quad-core Intel J series and the 4 gig of memory, that is what you would find inside the 53D series from QNAP. So you're looking at around £300 to £350 for a 2-bay NAS with that architecture. And this is a mesh router NAS system that knocks around for about $400 to $500. So yes, it's more expensive than a 2-bay, but it's a mesh router that happens to have a 2-bay NAS inside. It does lack PCIe upgradability, it does lack HDMI out, and it only has the two 2.5-inch SATA bays inside, which I know a number of you are going to be less keen on. For example, I've installed a couple of Kingston SSDs inside here. I'm around about a 1.5 feet away from the router, and you can tell those SSDs mean it is whisper quiet. Listen. You can just about make it out there in the background, the system fan. But again, we've set up the usual RAID configuration on here. Seagulls, as always, driving me crazy in the background. We've got that RAID group of the two SSDs, and we can, check their health, that sort of thing. I remember when we spoke about the Amber Pro recently in the last few days, while we were talking about that combined personal cloud and router system, and much as I thought it would be, this system absolutely wipes the floor with it. This is exactly what I want in a combined router and NAS. No compromise. The NAS side of this device is exactly what a NAS should be. This isn't like a streamlined NAS. This isn't some of the features, a few bits and bobs. This is exactly it. You've got access to almost the entire application database from QNAP, from the first to third-party apps, everything from Plex Media Server to AI photo recognition to multimedia applications to QSync localized backup from your client devices, your phones, your tablets, your laptops. Then you've got hybrid mount to attach and bolt on network and cloud storage. Then you've got hybrid backup sync, which of course allows you to create that full backup strategy. But then they take it a bit further by including QVR, which is their surveillance platform with 2 camera licenses included. And then you've got Container Station for kind of those sandbox application deployment, and even virtualization station. This is a router that you can deploy VMs within. Now, for those that are security conscious, you can go into the security counselor. And again, we have got the security checkup settings. We've got the antivirus in there. We've got the malware remover and Q firewall. You can see those 2 reports where it will tell me there's things I should be changing. Whether I've enabled the web server for another video, or in this case, because the auto router configuration I've enabled on this device. Now, I've done that for taking advantage of a video coming soon where we will be looking at the drive analyzer tool, the DA tool, and I just wanted to enable that to make sure I could send as much data as possible. But as I say, this system runs pretty darn well. So for example, if we open up some of these applications, let's open up Video Station. From Video Station, we can access our multimedia inside this device. So again, we can exit that there, go into my TV shows collection there, go to the movies, again, select a media folder, just like we'd expect to do so, add the folder, go into multimedia, go into the share file, go into my Plex folder, select movies, bosh. Allow that and it will start indexing and scraping the metadata for that multimedia as I see fit. On top of that, we can come out of there and look into some of the other applications. So again, we have got the likes of, let's go into the next window. We've got let's go for virtualization, shall we? Let's go big, shall we? If we're going to do this, let's go for one of the biggest ones. A router that allows you to install VMs. You can go ahead and download a Windows VM if you choose directly to the system within 2 clicks. You can, if you like, go to the VM Marketplace and start installing some of those different router and network management VMs directly from here. And again, pfSense being a particular favorite of many. You can import different VMs that you have backed up, VDMKs and ISOs and stuff like that, or you can just create a bespoke virtual machine image here. The one thing I will say though is I don't think you can upgrade the memory on this device. It's quite a closed system, and although there's a good chance that there is a SODIMM memory module in there, I'm willing to bet it's not going to be the easiest to access it. So for now, I'd say that the system cannot be upgraded beyond the 2 gig of memory, which means although it can run virtualization, it's probably not going to run it to an absolutely breathtaking degree. So I'll flick to the wrong one there. We can look at some other multimedia applications. Let's go into photo management. And let's go straight into QMaggie, shall we? Because we already set up some indexing here in the background. And this allows us to access the photos, the test files that we always use on our systems. We can go in, and the AI photo recognition has already started recognizing people. So we can go ahead and start adding people if we choose, and then moving forward, it will be able to recognize them. So in my case, we can do that one there, give it a name. There I am. Click OK, and bosh. Then I can merge this person if I choose. So go ahead, merge it with Robbie, bang, and I can carry on and add all those different variants of me there where it's looking ever so slightly different. And then straight away, wallop, there's all the pictures of me there. And again, you can search and add more and more people. And this is using, I think, around 800 photos, but you can put decades of photos in there. And remember, the AI recognition will notice things. These aren't files that were named weird cookies that were supposed to be John McClane during Die Hard but actually looked like gingerbread men that are wearing bras. They were definitely supposed to be John McClane. As you can see, we haven't named those files what we see here, although it doesn't always get it right, as you can see here with dog when that is quite clearly cat. Although I'll be honest, little Ron there, he definitely ate too much that year. Again, we can look at different things, hamburgers. It has that AI recognition built in for your photo collections to be imported over. And there's even geolocational information as well tracked in the metadata of your photos. So if we come out of the photo management there, we can go into some other settings. So we can have a look here. We look at Plex Media Server, where we have already started setting this up for a Plex Media Server video coming very, very soon. And as you can see, there's Plex Media Server. We can go into the TV programs. I've not managed a library for that, but we've got the test files that we always run. So we can go ahead, go there and play a file. And then you can see we can play a video file in Plex. It's 1080p. And all the while we are running this router system. Let's get the resource monitor up. And you can see the swapping memory at the moment, because we're running so many services, it's flicking back and forth. But still, nonetheless, it's good that we can run these services. And remember, this is Plex Media Server running on a router, which is pretty impressive. And the minute we go down the road where in the future we're going to be looking at installing Cayenne Player and stuff like that, it's going to be interesting to see how well this router performs in our Plex Media Server testing, because there's no way it's going to exit that. If you do use this system for multimedia, you've always got Multimedia Console, which will allow you to pretty much do intelligent indexing of all your applications, of thumbnail generation and transcoding actions if you want them done offline, and updating individual media applications pretty easily. File management, you can break it down to a file level if you choose, or you can go ahead and bolt on some of those remote services, get a remote targeted iSCSI LUN, or perhaps adding some virtual JBOD from another NAS, or using hybrid backup to use the features and services. I've got a USB drive connected to the rear of the router, and as you can see, we can access that USB drive. And on that USB, we've got all kinds of files that are now readily accessible to the network if we choose. Hybrid backup, of course, we've talked about before, where we can create our perfect backup strategy. It's really easy to set one up. So say we want to do a backup job, so we'll do like a backup job from the NAS. And what we'll do is we'll do a backup job from, let's say, the multimedia file folder. Click next. Then we can choose that we want to go local NAS, and we're going to select the USB drive if we choose, or we can select a cloud service provider and synchronize our NAS with the cloud, or a remote NAS if you've got the IP. So if you want to back up to the USB port, find the USB like I've done there, click OK, and boom, local NAS folder to the remote pathway on that USB. You can change the folders if you choose on either side, and then just click next, set it up, whether you want it to have it as a schedule, how you want certain files to be kept. Do you want versions of files to be kept over a certain time? Do you want checks to happen on these files regularly? All of this can happen with a USB drive connected to the NAS that it's synchronized with, giving you a second copy of all the data on the NAS that you care the most about. If you want to utilize a far more intuitive and client-friendly thing, run with QSync, where you can install QSync or QSync Pro on your phone, your tablet, any device really. It's supported on a number of different platforms, from Windows to Android to iOS and macOS. And then from there, synchronize all of those devices, and it will back up via the router and NAS platform that is QMiro, and back up onto the NAS and via connected cloud and or USB and or rsync NASes. What I'm saying is, this is an incredibly capable box. It's got everything in terms of QTS software and applications that you're going to need, but it also does it with the router system included too. I'm not going to say this is a great NAS. I'm going to say it's a pretty good NAS. Let's skip that version for now. I'm going to say it's a pretty good NAS. In the same way I'd say 53D is a good NAS. The fact it doesn't have an HDMI out or PCI upgrade is what makes it lose to the 53D. But hands down, software-wise, this is a fairly unbeatable selection of services and software and graphical user interfaces on a router that I've ever seen. Yes, I damn wish this had Wi-Fi 6, otherwise I genuinely think this would be a perfect device for me, insofar as what it can do, how responsive it is to me, and ultimately if I'm creating the perfect mesh system for my home or small business needs, or I'm a prosumer, there's very little here not to like. I think perhaps maybe a few extra LAN ports. They could have rolled in some of the switch capabilities we've seen with QSS, but with the exception of that, I've got to say the QMiroPlus and QMiroPlus-201W colour me impressed. I like them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you do have any comments, or maybe you're thinking of getting one of these yourself and you're wondering if you've got questions about the setup, I've got these units here probably for another week if I'm lucky, so it'd be great to answer your questions if you've got any queries about what this system can or cannot do for you. If you've ever used a QNAP before, you're going to know about the applications, good or bad, or whatever your experiences are. This is going to be a QNAP NAS that is a router bolted on. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, click like. If you want to learn more, click subscribe. And if you're looking for this completely free, cannot stress this enough, free advice on your perfect data storage solution, whether you're a home user, a business user, or whatever, take advantage of the free advice section over on NAS Compared. So there's a link in the description, and head over there. It's manned by me and Eddie the Web Guy, just two guys ready to give free advice. We've got lives. It might take us an extra day or so to answer your inquiries, but we do answer every email. It's completely free. You know, there's a bit of advertising, I think, on the sides, but that's about your lot. What you got to lose? Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.